Cleveland Cavaliers and the Orlando Magic. We got the Clippers and Mavericks player props in both games, as well as NHL. Touch on a little baseball and some UFC. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're enjoying the gambling content, we're going to break down props in all of the main sports for you, as well as a few other sports. Let's get into it real quick, Andrew. NBA, listen, we got some games with the Cavaliers and Magic, Clippers and Mavericks. Cavaliers and Magic are great if you like betting unders, like I do. A lot of player props are going way under in that series. Clippers and Mavericks, I'll just be honest with you, I cannot find an edge in that series. One game, James Harden is amazing. Then the next couple, he flies under. So let's start with NBA tonight. We'll start with Cavaliers, Magic, Clippers, and Mavericks. Anything jumping out to you on tonight's NBA games?
So, Andy, as far as the prop market, my new favorite prop to look at in the NBA is points plus rebounds, because, you just look at these guys that maybe they are getting a ton of points, but they're not getting on the glass whatsoever. So, as I've talked about in the past, they might go over their points total, but you get a couple kicker there, a couple more points for the rebounds, and they're not worried about it. They're not getting on the glass. Their main mission is just to be a point scorer. So a couple guys to look at as far as that's concerned, but I think Evan Mobley is a guy for me, under 25.5 points plus rebounds, under in 7 of his last 10 games. Look at the matchup. I think the rebounding battle was relatively even, but one thing about the Cavs is that they're limited with their offensive rebounds. They're pretty much shooting the ball and getting right back on defense. Setting up their half court defense there, not really sending a bunch of guys in to crash the boards to go grab some offensive rebounds. So with that, if you have a slow offensive game, if you're running the ball more with perimeter players, they're not running enough sets for him, that number hasn't really changed much. And that's what I've noticed a lot about these points plus rebounds. And for some of these guys that aren't really the main guys, you're not seeing these numbers change too much. So, points plus rebounds under for him at 25.5 is really good. And how about PG 13%, Paul George? We're going to take him under 30.5 points plus rebounds as well. For him, same number here, 7 of his last 10 games, he's gone under. And again, this is a team with the LA Clippers. There's so many mouths to feed. I mean, you've got so many cooks in the kitchen. There's some guys that are just standing around. Right? They're not cooking anything. They're not doing anything. They're just standing around filling a spot. And when you can get a number like 30.5, it might not be his night. He might not get any rebounds. He might not be the scorer that night. So that's why I love looking at the points plus rebounds. You get those few extra points. It helps things out. And I love calling him PG 13%.
I'm going to jump to another guy who's been absolutely terrible in this series, except for one game, and that's Gary Harris of the Orlando Magic. He had the 20 points, rebounds, and assist performance in game 2, and outside of that, he's been awful. And I played his points, rebounds, and assists under 8.5 in the last game. And Andrew, he went full-blown Tony Snell. 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists in 19 minutes. I couldn't give him the full Tony Snell because he did have 2 blocks, which is amazing that he had 2 more blocks than PRA. But it was the nightmare game because then at the end he pulled his hamstring and now he's questionable for tonight. It was just like, oh, why did Gary Harris get out of bed? Nothing good happened on that day. They lowered it to 7.5, and guess what? I would take this 7.5. I'm not sure he plays. And even if he does play, he's had 0, 6, and 4 points, rebounds, and assists the last 3 games. And I noticed a really, really big shift in the Orlando Magic in their lineup. And this is a really, really good way that we can look and see what the Orlando Magic are doing and take advantage of it. So Gary Harris, his I don't know, I guess just his shots, just his overall production just plummeted when they moved the lineup around. And then you've got some guys that are coming off the bench, like Cole Anthony. He's been pretty good on his. We'll see if we get some numbers on him. But Gary Harris is a guy that I've been just fading the last couple games, and it's worked out well. I think I'm going to put a bet in on him. If he doesn't play, it gets voided. But if he does play, I can't believe he's at 100%. And if he can't get any points, any rebounds, or any assists on a bad hamstring or on a healthy hamstring, I'm not sure how he does it in on a good hamstring. I'm jumping to the Clippers and the Lakers. Shout out to William in the chat who said, "How about Luka being a triple-double machine?" Yeah, he's really been amazing. One guy that's not been amazing is Daniel Gafford. He's been a really, really nice under. Hasn't gone over his points, rebounds, and assists in any game this season. The books have lowered it to 13.5. He had 13 last game. I don't know if I would take him under, Andrew. He's had 13, 12, and 12 the last 3 games. This number was at like 18.5, and then it was at 16.5, and now it's at 13.5. And I feel like they've lowered it a little bit too much to where I could see him going over this one. So what do you do when the books make big aggressive adjustments like this? Like I want to keep taking Daniel Gafford under, but we're betting numbers here. So the books, I don't know. It's pretty hard. I know it's a gray area. What do you do when the books make a big adjustment like this?
Andy, I feel like that's like the big question is, would we rather better odds at a different number, or would we rather the same number with worse odds? And I think it's different depending on who you ask. It really is, but it's such an interesting way of looking at it because, with the NHL, would you rather a guy at 2.5 with a really bad price, or would you rather him 3.5 plus money for shots on goal? And you look at it with the NBA. I was telling you backstage, I was betting Chris Middleton under 6.5 assists. Started off around minus 110, and ended up closing around minus 140, 150. And my new rule is fool me twice, because you've really helped me, and I've said this to you a bunch. I've given you a ton of credit about if you pick a player you're going to be betting something on, you probably shouldn't just do it once. And so, like with Tyler Bertuzzi, I was going over his shots on goal multiple times because what was happening to me a lot is I'd see a guy, I really like this strategy for him. He's going to go over on his points in the NBA. And then the one night that I pick him, he goes under, and I'm like, this guy sucks. And the next 3 games, he goes over, right? But I'm with you. I think it's frustrating, but I think that if the numbers currently say the same, and I've already made some money on the guy, I'll bet it again until it loses. Then I'll reset. But one thing that you mentioned a while ago about the NHL we'll get into is when they make that change, when they change the number, usually that's when you start getting screwed. So that's when you want to stay away. I had a question to throw to you and I don't want you to think that I'm just throwing these random props because I've actually looked at these. I've only bet them a few times, but we're always trying to find these niche markets. You know that props are getting popular and popular every day. The steals market, Andy. The steals and turnovers. Yeah. Steals and turnovers. I see a lot of people betting them on like Underdog Fantasy, Prize Picks, and all those websites as well. And the funny thing is, like, do you think the odds makers are adjusting those numbers in comparison to like points and assists and things like that? Because probably not. I mean, they could be, but you've got Kyrie Irving over 1.5 steals plus 100. 7 of his last 10 games, he's gone over. 13 of his last 15 games, he's gone over this number. Ivan Zubac has gone over 0.5 steal in 8 of his last 10 games. And it's a good price. But who is lining up to the window to bet these numbers? Nobody's really betting into that. But and one thing I find kind of funny is, well, I was scrolling through, okay, who are the guys that get a lot of steals? You wouldn't believe it. It's actually the big guys. It's the centers, because they're pretty much, I think what's happening is, let's say they're running a pick and roll and the pass isn't there. Then the big guy down low intercepts the pass or deflects the pass or grabs it. I thought it'd be more so the point guards, grabbing, playing tight D and stealing the ball, but it's the big guys. So have you ever looked at those? I mean, that might be the kind of a new NBA market for next year, even the steals and turnovers market.
I have Rudy Gobert. He was great on his steals because they put it at 0.5 against Phoenix, and he went over in 4 out of 5 games. I would take that one. It's minus 151. Jokic will make some turnovers. He's aggressive with his passing, and so he will make some turnovers. And Rudy Gobert is going to be a big part of that. The defense on Aaron Gordon coming on the baseline for those lob dunks or those back cuts that the Lakers what in the last 12 games they hadn't figured that one out yet to guard the back screen and to guard the back cut. Um, uh, so Gobert's going to be a big part of that, and I actually do like the steals. They're pretty random. I mean, and it is one you do have to just stick with it. Like I preach that in everything, but you do have to really, really play it and make sure you get a good number. But yeah, Gobert, I'm looking at Zubac. He's gone over in 5 straight games. Josh Green has gone over. So yeah, I've dabbled with the turnovers, and that's about as random as it gets. The only guy that I had success, was Scoot Henderson with Portland earlier in the year when it was very obvious he was completely lost. So yeah, and no, they are not paying attention to those markets. Absolutely not. No way. They may move the number a little bit, but not as aggressive like for the big name on points and points, rebounds, and assists. So it's a good one. I haven't dove into it a whole lot, but yeah, it's a great market. You mentioned NHL. Let's jump into NHL. We got a couple games tonight here. You mentioned Bertuzzi. We get to see him again. Any other? What NHL props are we looking at for tonight? I've got some. I'm interested in your thoughts.
Andy, keeping things fresh, man. Always trying to keep the audience on their toes. How about a safe prop? How about UC Saros from the Nashville Predators under 23.5 saves? And, when you're looking at save props and you're betting unders, there's 2 things you're either doing. You're either saying you think a goalie's going to play horribly and they're not going to make any saves and they're going to get scored on a bunch, or you think the team they're playing will just not have that many shots. And the answer for me in this bet here is that Vancouver in this series has not been shooting the puck a lot at all. They've been very particular when they do have the puck, trying to make the perfect play. But they had a game where they had 12 shots total. They've had multiple first periods where they've had single digit shot counts. And you take a look at it, it's not like UC Saros has had to work too hard. And some might say to me, well, don't you think that there's going to be a game eventually where they throw the kitchen sink at him? They throw everything they possibly can. But Andy, it hasn't even been close. And a lot of these shots that they've been taking to kind of pad these stats up a little bit higher have been late in the game. We're looking at the last game, he made 19 saves. Previous game, 16. He had a game where he made 10 saves. And the number here is 23.5. This is game 6 that we are on our way for tonight in the NHL Western Conference. 5 straight games in this series. He's gone under 23.5 saves, goaltender for the Nashville Predators. So that's one that I have my eye on. And one more before I send it back to you that I really like, that I'm sure you might like this one, Andy. Morgan Riley from the Toronto Maple Leafs to not get a point. It was plus 110 yesterday. Curious what the price will be for him to not have a point in the game on Saturday night. But Andy, I'm going to read it off. Every show I've been on, I've been reading this off. But these are the scores for the last several NHL games here in the playoffs for the Leafs. 2-1, 2-1, 3-1 loss, 4-2 loss, 3-2, 5-1 loss, 3-2, 2-1, 3-2, 3-2, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. Wow. How can a defenseman get a point when they can barely score more than 2 goals? Right? I mean, usually you take a defenseman prop on a team like Colorado, like Dallas, maybe like Vegas. But if a team is struggling to score in general and the power play is a combined 1 for 21, do you really want to take a defenseman to get a point? Not me. I'll take under on Morgan Riley.
Yeah, I like that one. That's a good one. Yeah, it's been tough for some of these teams to get some of those guys to have points. Guys, if you could hit the like button. And I have a question I want to pose for everybody. Andrew and I were talking about this before we came on. If you could leave a comment, I'm genuinely curious about this. And I know this is a prop show, but what's the percentage of bets that you guys are making on props compared to like money lines, spreads, and totals? Like in your portfolio, what's your percentage on your percentage on like how many prop bets you make? So I'm just curious, whatever. I know what mine is. Obviously, I host a prop show, so it's way more for me. I mean, I would say my portfolio is well over 50% on props, and then parlays and things like that. But I'm genuinely curious. If you guys could leave a comment, I'd like to know what you guys are thinking. Um, yeah, if I'm looking at some props for Vancouver and Nashville, we'll just start there. And there's a really good shots on goal prop in this one. Jason Zucker over 1.5 shots on goal. I love shots on goal props. Taking the over, it just feels like getting 2 is so much easier than 3. And he's been ripping it recently, 2, 3, and 4 in the last 3 games. He's gone over in, what is that, 4 out of 5 games. So shots on goal, I'm looking at Jason Zucker. And then if I want to go to the Dallas and the Dallas and Vegas, I mean, I know it's juicy, Andrew, but my gosh, Jack Eichel just always has a point. Every every time there's a
Yeah.
goal, it's like, oh, Eichel. like, wait, he got an assist? Yeah. Oh, who'd score? Oh, Eichel. Like, if they have one goal, it's Eichel's going to be involved in it. So at a point in every single game, it's at a point in 9 out of 10. The guy is just always around the puck when it goes in the net. So, yeah, 9 in a row. That's amazing. 9 in a row on that one. I cashed on Thomas Harley to not have a point. That guy has not been around the puck. And we mentioned earlier about moving the line. They moved this line from -150 to -190. So that has priced me completely out of the market. And I will say about Thomas Harley, he's on the last part of the power play. And he's kind of controlling everything. So there was a couple times where I was a little nervous watching him because he was always out there, with the last like 30, 40 seconds of the power play. So yeah, Toronto, Boston. Andrew, I have not had a good read on the series. I've had one play in the series. I lost it, and I was like, you know what? I just can't figure this one out. So I completely default to you. I can't find anything that's worthwhile. Like you were talking about the not very many goals in this series. Like it's so juicy. It's at -230, but Pasternak, they still have him at 1.5 points. Like it's hard to get to 2 points even in a game that's a little bit high scoring, but in these low scoring games to try and get 2 points is just brutal. So like it's a great same game parlay piece. I haven't been doing same game parlays, but that was kind of a thought that I had in hockey. So any other thoughts that you got in NHL shots on goal or points? I think we covered it.
I think we covered it. And I'll just say, like, I've gotten more into analytics throughout the years with the NHL. I'm a big eye test guy. I watch a ton of these games, but one thing that I'll say is that right now, looking at the NHL, you really have to kind of look at how these goaltenders are playing and how the series are playing out. If you look at the expected goals for the entire Maple Leafs Bruins series, you'd probably think that maybe every game but one should have gone over, right? And the fact is that a lot of these games are going under because the goaltenders are playing super well. The guys are blocking shots. Certain opportunities are not being cashed in on. So I would say that just kind of looking at the way the series is playing out, the vibe, and don't really expect things to change, right? What do people always say? I mean, a trend can continue, but it can only be broken once. So if you find a guy that's not getting a point and their team is not scoring very much, feel free to jump in because it's only going to get snapped once for that streak. And speaking of get a point, we do have a question in the comment section here on Instagram asking about Quinn Hughes. Would we prefer to lay the number with -140 on the point or take the better price on the assist? And for me, Andy, looking at the start of this series here, he had 2 assists in game 1, 2 assists in game 4, and he had an assist in the most recent game as well. He hasn't scored a goal yet. And I would just say that, especially if you have a decent volume of prop bets in your portfolio, as far as NBA, NHL, whatever it may be, you probably want to limit the juice when possible. So for me personally, I would just go with the assist. I know, Andy, it's tough if they go out there and he gets a power play goal and you're just, you're not happy. But I think overall, in my opinion, it's better to just limit yourself with the assist prop. What do you think?
I always pay a little bit more for the other option. I'll give you another example in a different sport. MMA. I will never take a person like just by KO or just by submission. I always take inside the distance. Like, there's nothing worse than taking a guy by KO and he submits the guy. So I've been burned by that a couple times. I'm like, never again. So I would take the minus 140 just to have, because listen, if he does have the assist, you still cash your bet. But if he doesn't have an
Right.
assist or a goal, yeah, you lose your bet. But man, if he has a goal and you're sitting there on an assist ticket, you're just like, that'll put you in a bad mood, no matter how good your day is
Yeah,
going. You know what
that's
I
true.
mean?
That is true. That is true.
All right, we're gonna touch on some MLB props and we'll do some UFC. We are running a great special at WagerTalk.com. You can get 11 days for the price of 7 days. Comes out to less than $10 a day. That is up. There's no promo code needed. You can check out my page, Andy Lang, at wagertalk.com. We are having a fantastic start to May. We are 8-1 in our last 9 plays. We are on a perfect 5-0 run in cross sport parlays and a perfect 4-0 run in NBA. I have an NBA best bet that is up tonight. I've gone ahead and attached a 4% cross sport parlay to that. So if you just want one play, you can grab that today. But I just cannot recommend enough getting a longer term pack, and at least 7 days is what I always recommend. And now you can get 11 days for the price of 7. Why is this important? Well, you're going to get 2 weekends. So you're going to get all of UFC plays for this weekend and next weekend. You're going to get all of NBA and NHL plays for this weekend and next weekend. It really is a no-brainer. We're up 78 units on the year, all sports, and we're coming off of an 8-1 run, and we look to keep the momentum going into the weekend. So encourage everyone to take advantage of that. No promo code needed. Andy Lang at wagertalk.com. Andrew, tell everyone what you have up for this weekend. 2 NHL games, 1 for tomorrow. So I'm sure that's going to be the highlight of your card, correct?
Absolutely. I'll have my NHL plays, actually, prop sides totals up for the Maple Leafs and Bruins game by the end of tonight. People can get that early. The prices will move on some of these, even in the matter of just one day. MLB back in full swing. I took a little bit of a break from it. I was kind of pretty aggressive out the gate, I would say, Andy. It worked well for me. And then things kind of started to slow down. So I wanted to regroup, collect some data, and get back into the mix with it. So something I'm definitely looking at there. And of course, the NBA. As I mentioned to you, I think last week, I've probably made more NBA playoff plays than I had all regular season. I just like the playoffs. You know what you're getting. Easier to handicap, I think, and especially for those player props, you can really capitalize on some of these matchups. So it's a great special, 11 days for the price of 7. I mean, WagerTalk's been running some great deals, whether it's been the 30-day deals, whether it's been the 3 days, whatever it's been. We've been getting some great specials here these days on the website. So take advantage and sign up with us long term. And guys, I'm joining Andy. I'm starting to cash some of these parlays. So watch out for those.
We can touch on baseball a little bit. I've been, what a surprise, I'm taking unders on player props. And Andrew, your Toronto Blue Jays are just a gold mine for unders for the batters.
Yep.
Bo Bichette, my guy, Bo Bichette. Man, they put him at 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. I couldn't wait to bet on that one. That's where I'm going. I've got a list of guys that I've been monitoring and following. I think we've got a decent enough sample size on these player props that I can start firing away on some of them. I did lose one on a walk-off home run. That was as brutal as an under gets. The guy goes 0 for 3, and then in the 9th inning, there's a walk-off home run to get the win and tank my player prop. But that's it. So, yeah, listen, I'm looking at some of your big-name guys on the Blue Jays. They really haven't been getting it done, and I cannot emphasize enough, in baseball, it is so important to play them multiple games over and over and over. Like, trying to get one prop right on a 1-game sample size in MLB is so hard. Stick with it. If you have a guy isolated, play at multiple games. So I'm looking at some of these unders, and when I do the unders, Andrew, the first thing I'm doing is look at struggling offenses as a whole. I don't want to take an under on a guy on like the Dodgers you're asking for trouble in that one. So I'm looking at guys on the White Sox, guys on the Mariners, these low scoring teams, and some of these other teams that are just not putting up a lot of runs. So, what's been your experience? What have you been noticing in MLB so far this season?
I just want to say I love that like my whole MLB segment last Friday with you was ripping the Jays, and then you start off our
So
MLB
good.
segment by also ripping the Jays. You got to love it. Hey, the GM keeps talking about how we're one of the best defensive teams. I've never heard of a GM in baseball talk about how great of a defensive team we are. But hey, we've got that going for us. The bats will get going. We're a great defensive team. Andy, look, you and I always talk like, our team totals, props, whatever they may be. Look, I'm not on a lot of baseball shows. I do record the occasional baseball video, but there's one team to their team total over that I want to mention, and that's the Houston Astros. If anybody out there is looking to bet on this team to win a game for them, to do something good for them, you want to be betting their team total. Some teams, Andy, they either lose or they win big. And this team, they're not going to win the Cleveland Guardian type style of baseball games. They're not going to win one-run games. This team either absolutely smokes a team for the most part, or they really get it done. And there was one game actually in their last series against the Guardians that was one run, but they put up 10 runs in that series. They put up 8 runs yesterday. Against the Rockies, that game was a different location. They put up 8 runs in the last game, 12 runs in the second last game. To me, when I look across the whole schedule here for this Astros team, you are burning money on some of the games they've been upset because of the hefty prices you have to take. And this is the thing. When I talk team totals, I'm not even talking about it as much when you win. We're talking about when you lose. Like if you lose betting a minus 105 versus losing betting a minus 140, it just hits different. You're not excited. Don't get me wrong. You're not pumped about it. But would you rather lose 1.4 units or 1.5? Because when I look at this Astros team, whenever I'm interested in betting on them, Andy, and whenever I like them, last night, they were a popular bet. There were a lot of games during the day in MLB. But guess what? There was one game at night. It was the Astros. A lot of people like the money line price. Why not bet the team total? Over 4.5, minus 105, get to 5 runs, and they win. So that's one thing I've been looking at for some of these teams in particular. When they do play well, they're scoring runs. When they don't, they're losing. And it's very plain and simple to look at. I talked about this with Trig, and I'll just say this really quick. A market I've kind of been looking at is doubles, which is I'm still experimenting. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm always trying to keep everybody guessing. The thing is, with some of the new rules that MLB has implemented, and just with some of the situations for games, some guys are going to, they're going to make risks. They're going to round first and go for second. And a lot of these guys, if you analyze over 1.5 bases, like Turner for the Blue Jays, most of the time when he goes over 1.5 bases, he gets a double during that game. And I'm telling you, Andy, the prices on these doubles, it's like plus 400, plus 380, whatever it may be. And for some of these guys, when they are going over 1.5 bases, they're not getting 2 singles. They're usually getting an extra base hit, which adds up. So we'll keep an eye out on those for the future shows. But the main thing I wanted to bring up today was the Houston Astros team total. I've just noticed when this team's having success, they're scoring runs. They're not really a team right now that's winning low-scoring games.
Love it. Love it. I'll touch on some UFC props here. Don't forget to hit the like button, guys. And again, leave us a comment. My question for the day is what's percentage on props that you guys are betting versus your money lines, totals, spreads, and other things? So leave me a comment. I really like to get a gauge on this one. Andrew, we had one of the worst weight cuts I've ever seen in UFC, and I mean like ever seen. William Gomes came in 3 pounds underweight while wearing clothes. Do you know how hard that is to miss weight or to come in under while wearing clothes? They said it looked like he had food poisoning. He collapsed. They had to carry him out. So I'm guessing that fight probably doesn't happen tomorrow. I don't know how you go from being completely debilitated and dehydrated to fighting in a UFC fight. I've been really looking at playing fights not to go the distance, and there are a few that I think tomorrow you can look at. I like Ruffy over Jamie Malarkey. I think that fight doesn't go the distance. Ruffy's a knockout artist, and Jamie Malarkey's chin is completely gone. I would look at under 2.5 or just Ruffy by finish in that one. Here's a really good way. Kyle Barallo is probably my favorite money line on the card, but it's all the way up to minus 650 now, so you can't play that. But he's minus 125 to finish Paul Craig, and Paul Craig is just, I think he's kind of done here, Andrew. Kyle Barallo's the better wrestler, the better grappler. He's just the better striker. Paul Craig is just in over his head. So, I'm looking at Kyle Barallo by finish. You're getting like almost $5 discount on that one. And in an interview, Barallo said, "I can finish. I'm going to finish." So, I like that one. I know it's chalky, but the Pereira and Pateria, that's a fight that won't go the distance. That's a parlay piece for you. And I don't think the Pantoja-Urseg fight goes the distance. I think if Urseg's going to win, it's got to be by some kind of knockout or something. And then I think if Pantoja gets him on the ground, of course, over 5 rounds, I think he's going to somehow get a submission win. So I would take that one to not go the distance. So those are some UFC props for everybody. But again, take advantage of the buy 7 days and get 11. That is at WagerTalk.com. There's no promo code needed. You can take advantage of that at Andrew's homepage or at my homepage as well. It's less than $10 a day. Smoking deal here. And we've got some really good streaks and promos going that. Don't forget to check out all the other content on the YouTube channel. And don't forget to check out some of the free plays. We've got free plays in every sport that's up at WagerTalk.com. Take advantage of that. As always, good luck on all your plays. Don't overexpose yourself with too many units. Thanks for watching, and we'll see everyone next week on Prop It Up.